council meeting. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
If I can.
Does any member of the council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to any item on the agenda? And if so, please state so at this time.
No.
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 I do not.
Amendment and approval of the draft agenda.
I have an amendment.
Okay, go ahead, John.
I'd like to add on to the agenda, reconsideration dredging variance request for the town's dredging project. Please take one of these and pass it down. I think you have two.
That's why you take two, did you?
Yeah.
Is that just one page?
Yeah, it's a couple.
2 pages.
Okay, so we'll put that under old business, B.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to add the Stormwater and Police Department budget amendment.
Second.
Second.
You don't need a second?
Let me see. All business.
C. Oh, you had it, okay.
You will need a motion to approve as amended, the agenda today.
I
I like
move
the-
we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Nay.
3-2. Council discussion?
I have a couple of items.
Go ahead, John.
First, I'd like to thank town staff, DPW, Police Department, Fire Department for their outstanding support for the Veterans Day ceremony, as well as Laura Lewis and the Beacon for the coverage and the photos of the event that were in the Beacon this week. Thank you very much to everybody who made this a very, very good event.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Troy.
also, about Veterans Day, I want to first thank Fire Chief Paul Hassenmeyer for obtaining that beautiful 60 by 20 flag. It just amazes me. Volunteers that help with parking and handing out programs and seating from the Old Bridge Historical Society, Sunset Vision, and Committee to Honor America's Veterans Volunteers. And I also want to thank the area businesses that happily allowed us to park in their parking lots. The Dollar General, Coastal Outfitters, Mavericks Point, Mavericks Java, and Dave's Outpost. Thank you all so much.
I have another
Go ahead,
item
John.
or two. I'd also like, you may have noticed if you were up late last night or early this morning, that the park and memorial lights have been installed. The Committee to Honor American Veterans and the Sunset Vision went through and put the lights up yesterday. The plan is for them to be turned off until the day before Thanksgiving, and then stay on until the Monday after New Year's, and they'll be taken down weather permitting. Also, remind everybody that Sunset Vision is hosting a beach cleanup, beach access way cleanup. Volunteers are asked to meet at noon today at the gazebo to go through and kind of do a after-season cleanup. Thank you.
Hiram?
Yeah, just real quick, I too want to thank the Committee that Honors Americans Veterans for Veterans Day, the work that they have put into this. Staff did a wonderful job, they've all been thanked properly, but I don't feel the committee members gave themselves enough credit for the event, so it was a wonderful event this year. It continues to get better every year. I really encourage anybody who doesn't show up for Memorial Day or Veterans Day to come out. It's really nice. I'd also like to thank Sunset at Sunset's volunteers who yesterday put on a staff appreciation lunch down at Fire Station 1. Food was great, hospitality was great, it was a good time, everybody really enjoyed it, and I just want to show our appreciation to them. And finally, next week's Thanksgiving, town offices will be closed Thursday and Friday as a reminder for anyone. We will open up the following Monday. We will be here Wednesday. I, however, will not. I'll be taking vacation all next week. So if anybody needs me, you can call Lisa. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Rich.
thank you. Hiram, I read with sad interest, I guess I should say, regarding the on-site inspection that was taken by you and the staff. What it tells me is that they will not be ready for the original date that we had on the agreement, and that we're going to be continuing this event for at least, according to your records. It was a good report. It's just the fact that I was disappointed but not surprised. I hope we take a more aggressive approach. This has been going on since 2000, at least since my involvement. It started in 2008, the poor property owners. In 2012, we had a chance to call the bond, and we didn't. We entered into a tolling agreement. That was 2012. This is 2019, almost 20. They can think of any excuse not to do what they're doing or what they should be doing. The mere fact that Bill Clark's development will be finished probably before Jaguar's Lair is a tribute in itself, how they're delaying this program and this completion. A lot of people were hurt during this process, particularly the property owners. That land is worthless. They paid between $200,000 and $300,000. They bought a dream. It failed. But that's real money. And according to the records that I read, that developer made $60 million. Yeah, I know. So there's a lot of bad history, including the council at one time that wanted to release the bond when the work wasn't completed. And sadly, the former attorney resigned. Whether he was pressured, according to the Beacon, he was pressured to resign. So, I can't fix this. And there's not a person on this council that can fix this. And the only one that can really address this matter is Grady. And he's going to have to play hardball. We can blame Dorian, we can blame Matthew, we can blame Hurricane Michael. But other projects around here have been ongoing, developed, and completed. And I just find this frustrating and a government failure, personally. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, public comments on agenda items only. Okay, old business, A, 2019 Beach Patrol, Chief Paul.
Looks like too much stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Chief.
$2,700.
Is that okay?
If anybody else wants a copy, these are small pictures of the slide. Cindy, you got the clicker, or is it working? Maybe. All right, so we'll get started a little bit while they're getting the PowerPoint up and running, and then we'll cruise through that. Really, the presentation this morning can be as fast or as slow as you all want it, and if you have questions or if you want to take notes, and then we can address some things moving forward into next year along the way, or whenever you want in the budget period. I brought new Deputy Chief Joseph Adams with me. He's behind me. So this is his public speaking debut and YouTube debut. So he'll be here. He started as the Deputy Chief for Beach Patrol and Community Risk Reduction at the end of August or beginning of September. So didn't have a lot of time on the beach this year, but over the course of his career in Sunset Beach, he's been on the beach, and he has a list of a couple things we're going to look at doing next year to improve things and move things along. So really this presentation this morning is a review of last year, and in the grand scheme of things, there was a whole lot of good things that happened and great work that was done by the Beach Patrol staff and personnel from the fire department and the seasonal employees. A few hiccups along the way. Some of those are in the PowerPoint that I'd like to make a couple notes on, just so we can look moving forward if there's anything council would like to give us direction on how to handle it, and then some other good stuff in the slides just to show the work that we're doing to not only help the residents of Sunset Beach, but our thousands of visitors as well, and make their experience on the beach enjoyable and safe as possible. So let's see if this works. All right. So one thing I want to mention real quick is the National Weather Service and the ambassador program they have. The Sunset Beach Fire Department is an ambassador with them, and that helps us with a lot of communication things. Social media, the websites that we're checking daily as far as rip currents, weather warnings, longshore currents, and we spend a lot of time putting those materials out on social media in conjunction with the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service calls our Beach Patrol staff every morning and every afternoon to track current conditions and changes and any specific rescues related to the currents or rip currents. So it's a great program, and we're going to continue using their knowledge and wisdom to make our beach as safe as possible. All right, one thing I want to look at moving forward, there's been discussion over my time here in Sunset Beach. I know it's been mentioned before. The National Weather Service comes out with a warning system for rip currents, and it's based off of colors and flags. There are some beaches that have a flag system. There's some beaches that don't. Some beaches have lifeguards, some don't. So one thing that Deputy Chief Adams and I started talking about was, can we correlate, because we're putting out the warnings from the National Weather Service every day, whether it's a warning or, green flag, yellow flag, red flag. But one thing we talked about was purchasing a flag system, the green, yellow, and red flags, and putting them on the UTVs that Beach Patrol is going back and forth. So in addition to social media, we could notify everybody on the beach with that flag type system. So that's something for you all to think about. if you'd like us to do it relatively easy, I think we can do it for under 500 bucks. And in reality, that's within our budget now. We can figure it out. I think we would correlate the flags on the UTVs to exactly what the National Weather Service is saying. So, something to think about, and I'd look for your direction on if you'd like us to do that or not. Maybe. All right.
Oh, would you like us to comment as you're doing this or afterwards?
Whatever you'd like to do.
Afterward, we'll probably move it smoothly.
If you want to make notes and then bring them all up at the end, I can take notes and go from there. All right, next up, firefighter summer apprentice program. I think most of you, if not all of you, got to meet Madison Benton. He was our first summer apprentice. That program, I would deem as a huge success. Madison worked, he was scheduled over 40 hours a week for the 11 or so weeks that he was with us. And he spent multiple nights at the firehouse, so he worked a lot of hours. He was available, and we got our money's worth out of him, and it also helped Madison develop some skills in different environments and increased his training level. And he's back at Western Carolina University now. So this program and how we kind of set it up last year was if it worked, keep it going. So I'm already starting to get the advertisements together and look at doing that again next summer. I have contacts. Obviously, we have a great contact with Western Carolina. We're looking at developing some relationships with UNC and their fire program. I also know some folks at Eastern Kentucky, and one of our part-time employees now has some connections there. So we're going to be reaching out to try to boost that program up a bit more for next summer is the current plan. All right. Another thing we did this summer, and we're going to continue to try to improve it moving into next summer, not only with Beach Patrol, but the fire department in general too, is here Deputy Chief Childers and Madison, they made a video on rip current safety. That's on our YouTube channel. We created the YouTube channel, and you know, there's several hundred views of that simple video, and we pushed that out via social media. Also, a couple of the rental companies on the island started adding our videos to their websites as well. So that's spreading it out and getting more awareness out about the hazards on the beach and things to watch for. So we're going to continue doing that. All right, there's a couple timeline pictures in the slides here. As you all remember, the pier got some work done on it early part of the year, around Easter. There was a few challenges there, but they got it done. Nobody got hurt, and it looks great. So the Beach Patrol staff, Deputy Chief Childers, myself, were out there almost on a regular daily basis checking on this, and we had to change barricades to keep people away because people like to migrate towards that pier, and with trucks and equipment overhead, it was a hazard we didn't want to go bad. So the UTVs, we're set on UTV equipment going into the 2020 summer. Our John Deere UTVs we bought last year held up very well for the first year, and by all indications, we think they're going to be able to last 3 years on the beach, knock on wood. Okay, so we have two other ones that are up and running and ready to go. An old UTV, a Honda UTV, went out of service due to mechanical stuff over the summer, and the one in the picture here is still working, but we don't expect it to last much longer. So overall, the firefighters and some of the guys, they're doing a great job taking care of this equipment on a daily basis. It's not once a week, it's not once a month. Every day when they come back from the beach at 7 o'clock at night or after, these things are getting cleaned, they're getting sprayed off, they're getting serviced. Captain McDonald and his crew is changing oil, changing air filters, changing, you know, we had a couple tire issues and multiple issues. They're taking care of them. It's, you know, almost like airplanes when they come into the airport. The mechanics are looking at them, checking, doing all that stuff, and then they're going again. So overall equipment wise, we're in pretty good shape. Another video that we did this year, and there's a lot more views on this one, was related to the Cabana ordinance. This was a prepared script that Deputy Chief Childers and I worked on for a while, and to outline the current Cabana ordinance and to put that out, and the rental company shared it. We shared it on social media. We tried to share it. We found that some of our challenges were the changeover days, Saturday, Sunday, into Monday. So we even tried to put this video out more on Sunday and Mondays to get it out there. And then people on the Strand commented that they saw it, and that helped. So we want to continue to do that type of education on the front end, and it helps our staff on the beach train itself. So we'll continue doing some of that stuff. Talked about at one or two meetings, 3 days a week, we sent out some of our paid-on-call firefighters in a pickup truck to help clear cabanas, umbrellas, chairs, anything big. 3 nights a week. They went out after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and they quite frequently found that type of stuff in the pickup truck. In the report itself, I tried to total up the best that we could the number of cabanas and chairs. You know, in the report here, it's 673 chairs, 283 umbrellas, 149 canopies. And Dustin and his guys probably got another 100 or so. These are the numbers that we counted. This isn't on the high end. This is low end, and we probably missed some on the count. So it costs a little bit of money to get the pickup truck out there a couple nights a week, but I think it helped Dustin's crew too, where all this stuff wasn't piled up at 6 a.m. in the morning and they had to get it off the Strand. So kind of a program we've been working on with Dustin and his guys, and these guys enjoy doing it too, and they get out there and take care of a couple things. So we'll probably continue doing that. All right, this next slide, also at night, there's always holes from people digging holes, playing in the sand and whatnot. And as you know, in our area with the sea turtles, and it's a big concern of the Turtle Patrol. They would like to have all these holes filled in so the turtles don't get stuck in them. And also with the cabanas and different things on the beach strand, they don't want all that material there late at night when the turtles come up. So when the guys went out picking up cabanas or chairs or umbrellas, whatever's on the beach strand, they also spent time filling in holes. And Beach Patrol, before they come off at 7 p.m., they're looking for holes and filling them in as well. But these guys find even more later at night that still get dug. So one thing to consider is looking at, there's several beach towns that have ordinances where you can't have regular size shovels, just child size shovels. Is that something you want to do or can't or don't want to do? Something for you all to consider, I think. Deputy Chief Childers and I talked about it, and will that prevent some of the big holes being dug and some of the hazards, not only for wildlife but people walking as well. And that's just a pretty picture. One night I went out with the guys picking up cabanas and chairs, umbrellas. It really is a beautiful, magnificent place to be. So I don't want to understate that with everything that I'm talking about. Dustin's crew also did a lot of work on the East End emergency access over the summer, put in a new Hatteras ramp, so we thank them for that. And we had a couple challenges here with some heavy rain and it washing out at the top, but they were very quick to fix that, so we could get, you know, truck, boats, UTVs through there, up and down. Thanks to Dustin and his crew for sure. All right, life rings. Before the season last year, we talked about, and we moved forward with a life ring program, which I would consider a great success on getting them out there and in place in case anybody has any challenges or issues, a distressed swimmer. I don't know with 100% certainty if one was used to help someone. Just ultimately because we're out there all the time, and somebody might have used one and we didn't know about it. We had 10 that came up missing. So that's our current challenge. Did they become souvenirs? Did they get thrown in the dunes? Did they get thrown in the dumpster? I don't know. But 10 went missing. They were replaced as soon as that was noticed. We've talked about several different options for that. One, could Beach Patrol put them up at 7 in the morning, take them down at 7 at night? I'm hesitant to do that just because, you know, there's no way I can say, well, nobody can drown at 7:03, and then that life-saving device is not there. So that, I don't know if we want to do that. We've talked about, and we looked at prices for dock boxes. So if we were to take them down in the evening, or maybe it's the guys that go out late at night, take them down at 9 o'clock, could we put them in a dock box? And we looked at 4 dock boxes that we could put at a couple of beach accesses, throw them all in there at night, secure them up, and then put them out in the morning. Dock boxes, we're looking at, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, depending on exactly how big we would need. So, you know, an option. I don't know if it's a great one. And the next picture here, these are devices that are kind of like AED cabinets that you see at a mall, where if you open the door, an alarm goes off. So this is a type of device they make that if somebody would rip that ring off, it's going to be an audible alarm. Anybody around is going to be hearing it. Those are about $60 a piece, and we have 31, 32 rings out there, you know, so we're looking at $2,000 to do that. And at this point, I don't know if it would hold up in the salt, sand, wind, rain. If we were to try that, I'd say let's try a couple and see what happens. So there's some things to think about in the challenges that we had. Or if a life ring comes up, do we spend the money and just replace it, to kind of what we've done already? But we don't have a lot of extras left from last year. So if a couple come up missing again, we're going to have to buy some or reduce the number of life rings on the strand. So definitely something to, and I can go multiple different ways, and I think Deputy Chief Adams agrees. We can go a couple different ways depending on what you also think is best.
Chief, the only thing I'll say is I got a letter last week when a resident saw that this was on the agenda, and he said that in June we had a bad storm, and he went down on the beach with his wife, and there was 6 of them laying around the beach that had blown off. He was able to retrieve 4, and 2 went out to sea. So they're not stealing all of them. It's
Right.
just
Yeah,
you
when
know,
I
the way
said-
we're securing them, I guess. But I don't know how.
They're just on a hook mi- when I say missing, it could be stolen in the dunes, storms. I know Mr. Corbett found one on the island itself one day and got that one back when he saw it.
On somebody's porch,
Oh, well, that didn't blow
So-
up.
where it floated up to.
Yeah, so whoever was out there and saw those get blown off and put them back, we'd appreciate it for sure. We did take them down for Dorian. You know, we took all that stuff down to make sure they wouldn't blow away. Yeah, so I think it's a good program. I think they're good to have out there. But do we tweak it a little bit?
Well, we make a policy where, you know, it's winds up to a certain degree, miles per hour, we take them down.
I just don't know what that number is and in what direction, you know, what wind direction it is either.
So maybe the answer is to take them down every night.
Might need one. Somebody might need one at 8 o'clock.
Well, they're swimming at 8 o'clock at night, then they're on their own.
I mean, so far out of all the prices you've raised, I mean, replacing 10 at about $50 a piece is $500. That's one quarter of putting the alarms up, and it's a lot less than 10% of putting up the dock boxes. So, yeah. The replacement cost is still a lot cheaper
Just
than any
replacing.
other solution right now.
And maybe we try we can get a couple of the alarms and try them just to see. I don't know if it's gonna hold up out there. You know, the environment's very tough on things.
Chief, where are the most of them are missing? Around the pier or just random?
All over.
All over.
There was no rhyme or reason to where.
Sometimes, we're trying to micromanage everything, but sometimes theft is a cost of business. Safety first. And theft, to me, would be secondary in the sense that, compared to the $100,000 budget that you have, this is to me, a minor expense. And by having now that we have them, by removing them, could jeopardize a safety event. So, do we either accept the fact that theft is a part of business and try to control it as best as we can? You know, just the thought of hiring somebody just to check to see if no one's stealing the rafts is hopefully that's not in the equation. But the point that I'm trying to make, theft is part of business. But our priority is safety first. So that's why you did all the things that you did with the life-saving devices and everything else. The more you put out there, the more people are going to steal. They're just going to do it. The next thing we could do is put cameras on all of the posts. I mean, this thing can go on and on and on. So we have to realize and balance, what do we accept?
I think-
I don't know what the answer is.
Well, that's something we can discuss during the budget cycle when we look at these things again.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Charlie.
I do believe safety first, but there's not even a little hint that any of these life rings were used to save somebody. May have, you don't know about it. I mean, those things are pretty heavy, and I couldn't imagine them blowing away. I mean, that one blew up on that porch that John found. But people steal them, and we're going to put more money in to having them there, and I don't really know that they're that valuable to have.
Yeah, it can be debated for sure.
Mr. Mayor, I think an overall budget, you know, if we have to replace 10 a year, it's worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I don't.
All right, we'll move on from the life rings for now. And the next pictures, this was a training that we did at some point over the summer. Deputy Chief Adams, maybe he can speak for a minute at the end about some of the things we're going to do. But training is one of the improvements we'll be able to make with him in the position he's in, out there more on a daily basis, and Deputy Chief Childers as well, to be able to increase their skill sets as seasonal employees especially. So that's something that we're going to work on and make sure our standard operating procedures are in line with what we expect. So the next slide, I wanted to throw this in here. I get emails and questions, and Beach Patrol staff gets questions and complaints about animals, specifically dogs on the Strand. The town ordinance is right there on the screen. And you know, from the Friday before Memorial Day through Labor Day, from 8 to 6, no dogs on the beach. And we got to make sure local residents understand that, and the visitors that bring their pets from wherever they came from, because that is a challenge, and Beach Patrol staff deals with that on a regular basis. So I was asked recently about the number of citations issued. I talked to Chief Claymore a little bit about this specifically, and we didn't issue any citations specifically. Beach Patrol called PD once, I think, and the PD received a couple calls for dog complaints on the beach, and by the time they got there, the people were gone. But it's a huge education thing that the Beach Patrol staff does. When they see a dog, they go approach the person and explain this ordinance and hold them accountable. And as long as they comply with the ordinance, then we chalk it up to an education thing and move on. This is my closest encounter with a turtle. And we can't thank Carmel and her staff and the volunteers for what they do on the beach strand too. We call them regularly to help with injured and distressed animals. They call us for help, so it's a good working relationship overall, but they do an excellent job for us. I never saw the turtles like that in Ohio, so I had to put that picture in there. This is a picture of July 4th, looking towards Ocean Isle. The beach wasn't this busy every day, but Deputy Chief Childers and I, we both spent a lot of time on the beach strand. Typically, during the week, he was out there in the mornings. He'd make a trip out, and typically every afternoon I would make a trip out. I saw some of you out there several times. On the weekends, when we didn't have a seasonal employee that was able to oversee things the way we expected, him or I were out there on Saturday and Sunday. Hence, one of the big reasons why we also have Deputy Chief Adams in the position he's in, so we can make sure 7 days a week we have the supervision, the seasonal staff, and the part-time employees out there to make sure that is, and all the people on the beach strand are taken care of to the best of our ability. It is a challenge. There's thousands of people out there, and we have to try to be ready for whatever's thrown our way. I've had several friends from around the country come in and see me since I've been here, and I show them pictures like this or drive them down there, and they say, "You got how many people out here for when something goes good or bad out here?" And I tell them, and their eyes are like this. And so we got a good program going, and we're going to further develop that with training and make sure the expectations and the seasonal employees are even better this coming season than they were last year, is the goal. That's looking towards Horry County from the pier on July 4th. So both directions, lots of people. July 4th wasn't the only day it was packed like this. We had Deputy Chief Childers and I, we each drove, we were on each side of the pier on July 4th all day, and you know, we started counting, tried to count people between certain beach accesses, and I'm like, is that really data that we need when we got a picture like that? There's a lot of people out there, is the bottom line. We started counting cabanas, we started counting chair, and I'm like, all right, we're wasting our time. There's a lot of people here, we need to be squared away, have good people, good equipment, and take care of the people on the beach. So, that's definitely our mentality. A couple other guys that, they saved a duck, and then called Carmel, so, and Carmel's folks came, so. Lots of animal rescues and on the beach strand throughout the year. Another thing we did, and I forget exactly, this might have been mid-season, put together this water safety brochure, a trifold brochure, and there's 2 pages there of it for you. And I think when we did make this, I might have thrown one in each of your mailboxes just so you could see, but we ended up printing quite a few of these, and we took them to several of the businesses on the island. We started passing them out at different public speaking events that Deputy Chief Childers and Adams and the different crews are doing. One thing at the end, Deputy Chief Adams can talk about as well, too, some of the public education thing we're looking at doing on a weekly basis, around the pier. But incorporating some of this and having it as a
Also on the website?
I don't think we put it on the website, but we can put it on there pretty easily.
I think we should.
Okay. September 15th, that was, I think I sent an email out to council about this. We had a water rescue around the pier. A young man was caught in a current. We don't necessarily think it was a rip current, but the currents were strong around the pier, and a couple bystanders assisted. Actually, a couple out-of-town firefighters were right there. Beach Patrol was right there, and actually, I just happened. This was a Sunday. I happened to be walking down the gazebo access with my family when this was. We got toned out for it, so this was a successful event. The young man was fine, but again, for September 15th, it was a busy day on the beach. A couple other guys, and we did. These 3 are interesting. So one thing that we talked about going into 2019 was the lack of seasonal employees that Deputy Chief Childers had the year before. So we wanted to build that up somehow so we could cover the hours and make sure there was enough people on the beach strand. So one thing that we did, we broadened our scope of who could be a seasonal employee. And we looked at EMTs, we looked at firefighters, we looked at nurses, we looked at nurse anesthetists, we looked at business folks, professionals, retired professionals, and then, so, the 3 in that picture, left to right, the gentleman on the left is, he's an EMT, but he's also a businessman that has his own company. So that's one variable that worked out well for us. And Steve was very good at talking to people on the beach strand and explaining the ordinances and being a good steward of the town out on the strand. In the middle there is Ed. He had no fire EMS experience. Retired guy looking to do something. And Ed came in and we said, here's the town ordinances. Know them, and here's our plan for you. And Ed was great at explaining ordinances and teaching people and educating people and helping people along the Strand. And we perked his interest enough that he's in EMT school right now, and he can't wait for next year. So that was a good addition. And then on the right is Rick Gimbel. He's a retired FDNY firefighter, and he's a paid-on-call guy with us. Did some time on the beach and likes to talk to people and understands the ordinances, and also has that fire rescue presence from years and years of experience. So lots of different folks that put the team together last year, and we'll do it again this year. Still in September, there's another picture we grabbed of the guys making trips to the beach and taking stuff off ahead of time and or late at night. But so I think, I'm not sure how we prevent that. Sometimes it's from a windstorm that pops up. Sometimes the piles are by the trash cans at the end of somebody's stay. Sometimes there's abandoned chairs in the middle of the beach strand. So it's another one of those things. I'm not sure how we prevent it. We have to deal with it. So I think our crews, the firefighters, they want and expect they're going to have to do that, not only to help Dustin and his crew, but the wildlife and Carmel's folks, but because it's the right thing to do to make sure that beach is looking sharp in the morning. So there's a couple pretty pictures I took at some point. And
Well, I just have a couple questions. I
Sure.
think that's a good idea for the poles on the flags on the UTVs.
Yep.
I think it's a good idea. Also, sometimes I go over the bridge and I see the UTVs outside. Are they storing inside at night?
the UTVs, you probably see, is there one or two ATV out there?
There's two outside the other night.
The ones outside right by the bridge are out of service. They're going to auction.
Okay.
They're basically irreparable. So they're, the ones sitting back there by the dumpster, they're done.
Okay.
You see one sitting outside, they're probably cleaning the bay floors or working in that area, but all the other ones that are in service stay inside.
Overnight. Okay. Good.
Microphone, please. If you're gonna.
So,
His voice is pretty.
Yeah, his voice may be picked up by the microphone from across, but still.
And I think as far as the missing rings, I think John's correct. We should just replace them every year. I think you're correct that salt water would kill those alarms over a period of time. And
Yeah,
it's cheaper to buy the rings and buy that. So
Chief, we talked about QR codes for your videos to be posted at the signs. We're gonna make any headway on that? Just like, you can QR code and link to your YouTube page. They can filter through the signs, through the videos, without people walking to the beach can have immediate access to those.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. The rip current safety video that we put together, really probably we won't need to update that this year. The Cabana video, those type of videos, we can pretty easily make those YouTube links into a QR code, and then people can scan them, and we can print stickers pretty quickly to put at the accesses. So we just I'll try to coordinate that with Dustin, but
That'll allow everybody walking to the beach on their phone just to click it. They can watch it on their phone, to help figure out how to set up their cabana. They'll know what to look for a rip current at the beach immediately, as opposed to just perusing our website occasionally. So they'll see a QR code, they'll be able to scan it and get rules immediately.
Well, the other thing I saw this year, which was disturbing, people coming out in the middle of the day with their dogs, putting them underneath the tents. And Beach Patrol did, tell them they have to leave, but I don't know why they're doing it with all the signs we have. They're just not obeying the laws.
I agree with that. You know, there's always some special people the rules don't apply to, but these rules are at every beach access. Anything you look at about the beach, no pets. And I am a dog lover, but you know, maybe these people should just be ticketed. Maybe this warning thing doesn't work.
We can, I can talk with Chief Claymore and if we want to take a harder stance to it. You know, there's some other challenges as well. Let me talk with Chief Claymore and see what he thinks, but we can take a harder line with it, but that also potentially results in more emails to you all.
And we don't know how many repeat offenders we have on this. Like, is it, you know, the same people violating this, or is it a one-time deal? I wouldn't want to give somebody a ticket for a one-time deal, but if it was the same repeat offender, then you wouldn't have a problem with it.
It's challenging.
But we don't know what that is.
Challenging too, because
Yeah.
different beach patrol folks, different areas.
Do y'all keep a log of every educational event you have? You know, name of person?
So, no, but this past summer, or previous years, there was very little documentation of what happened. This past summer, anything, any encounter with somebody that resulted in even a little bit of an argument, or them disagreeing with an ordinance, or them not wanting to do something, the beach patrol staff was to write out an incident documentation report form, which that came to Deputy Chief Childers, it came through my desk, and we kept track of that and monitored, was there recurring themes, was there issues with education, was there just people being not nice to staff, was it our staff not taking care of people the way we expected it? So there's a lot of documentation, but I couldn't even tell you how many people beach patrol staff talk to on a daily basis over the course of 8 or 12 hours. So they didn't write every education point down, but a lot of them they did. Some of the supervisors, the seasonal supervisors, started doing a daily log of the bigger event, so we could monitor, okay, is there a theme to anything, and we could adjust or teach our employees too something that was going on. So
In general, with the dog complaints, were the people understanding, or did you, because I didn't see any incident reports where people said that
So-
they weren't going to comply.
I think most people complied. Some people didn't agree with it. Some people didn't, kind of what Mr. Nern was saying, some people didn't care. But I think that's, I think we're always gonna have that. I'm not sure how we're gonna,
Chief, can I
Change
just
that.
ask you a simple question? How many citations have we issued? And what was the amount of income that we received from those violations? Is that something that we keep track of?
yeah, so if citations are issued, there was one citation issued from Beach Patrol staff, and it was early in the year related to a cabana. And that was it. And that was, what was that fine, $250? I think it was a $250 fine. And that was it.
And now, was that
That was it.
just
So-
one fine and the person paid?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I'd have to
Yeah,
check
no,
with.
no, that's all right. I
No.
mean, we have all these eyes and ears out there. Can I ask you another question? A number of people were upset when the council removed the fact that, I mean, if we're going to keep cabanas, we're going to keep cabanas. I always wanted to know what the impact would be if we did eliminate cabanas from an operations point of view. And on the other side, I always wanted to know what the impact would be from an operations point of view, either savings or less work. If the council, if the new council decided to reinstate that private vendors could erect cabanas for citizens who rent, or handicapped people or anything like that, I mean, would that impact your operation? For example, if we allowed cabanas, vendors to erect cabanas for guests, does that impact your operation?
I don't, there's an impact with everything.
No, I understand that.
But,
I'm trying to find a way to reduce
I
the
think-
impact on your staff.
I think with vendors, if that were to come to fruition again, I think our role in that is ensuring the vendors understand the ordinance.
Yeah.
And
No, they did
and
in the past, and so
as
they got
long
a little
as-
greedy.
As long as they understand the ordinance and Beach Patrol staff helps them, I don't think that's a huge impact. I think the biggest challenge from talking with Deputy Chief Childers from years before, when vendors were on, the biggest email chains that he would get in relation to the vendors was he would get email complaints about people saying they didn't have, a citizen or a visitor that didn't use a vendor didn't have a spot to put up a tent. And that was the biggest complaint from him, but I can also deal with that, and I think if the vendor directions the way that the next council wants to go, we'd look at it and make sure we're squared away and make it work. I think your first question was related to if we eliminated cabanas altogether.
From an operations point of view, if that would minimize the cost of what we're doing out there, because the costs have skyrocketed, there's no question. You've added more services, flags and life-saving equipment, better trained staff, a whole list of what I feel some are good, but I'm just looking at it from a cost perspective. Because we're spending a lot of money on this program now. It used to be, it didn't have this kind of attention, is what I'm trying to say. That's all. There's no answer to it. It's just something that you have to,
If we eliminate a service, then cost will go down.
yeah. I have no further questions, Mr. Mayor.
Good job, Chief.
Chief, you got several recommendations in here at the end of your report. Several of those look like they could be discussed at budget time. Is there anything that these recommendations that you need to have before the next budget cycle for them to decide upon that we can come back at another agenda item for?
Yeah, so, real quick, the standard operating procedures, that's happening already with Deputy Chief Adams, myself, and Deputy Chief Childers. We're doing that. We're making sure things are squared away. The training program, we're gonna up the training as much as we can. Internally, that's happening. If you all have a little bit of interest in us moving forward with the flag system corresponding to the National Weather Service's warnings and advisories on the UTVs, we can make that happen. The life ring theft stoppers, I'm not sure we'll go in that direction unless we maybe get one and try it, but I'm kind of skeptical. Communication with the police department and Beach Patrol and the fire department. We're working on a different radio channel with Brunswick County Communications Center. They're looking at getting us a little bit better one to communicate, so that's in the works. Chief Claymire and the deputy chiefs are, we're putting in systems to streamline communications between the departments. Signage, Dustin and I have already started talking about anything that changes forthcoming. We'll have to get on any sign changes or the QR codes and make those improvements. And then the last thing is vehicle for Deputy Chief Adams. That's one thing that's kind of on the forefront. I'm not sure we're going to be able to squeeze it out of this current budget. Him not having a vehicle is challenging because we got pickup trucks at the firehouse, but they're also being used by the on-duty crew to pull the boat or pull the jet ski, or our fire inspectors using it. So we're making it work right now, but that's something that's on the forefront for me figuring it out, because one thing Deputy Chief Childers has wanted to do over the years, and I want to do it as well, is get that jet ski on the beach strand every day, or most days, especially busy days, so it's there. Because our current operations last year was, if there's a water rescue, the fire department guys are bringing it. That takes time to hook it. Even a lot of mornings they hook it up and it's ready to leave the firehouse, but it's still got to go over the bridge, onto the strand, and deploy. So with Deputy Chief Adams on the beach more on a daily basis, with Richard pulling a day or two here or there, if he's got a vehicle, when he goes over there, he can put the jet ski on the water's edge. And if there's a water rescue, then he's there from wherever he's at to the jet ski to go into work. So that's one of the big reasons why it's on the forefront for me. He's moving and shaking all over town, doing the community risk reduction stuff as well. So we're a little limited with vehicles, but we'll figure it out sooner than later, hopefully.
Paul, on the vehicles, you do have some vehicles that are going to need replacing soon.
Say that
Some of the pickup trucks you have, are they coming close to the end of their lifespan?
Pickup truck Deputy Chief Childers is driving is good to go for quite a few more years. We have a pickup truck in the firehouse that's got some more years on its life, and also a pickup truck that John Cook, the fire inspector, uses on a regular basis. It's got a fuel tank that we pull the boat with and can fill UTVs up if need be. Those three trucks, I would say, are good in operation and going to be here another 5 to 8 years, something like that. I don't know the exact age, but the Tahoe I'm driving is pushing the end of its life, and I'm gonna drive it till the wheels fall off of it. But that could happen in a year or next week. I just don't know yet.
So
Captain McDonald's keeping it running for me.
So the only vehicle you need is one for Joseph to use?
Yeah, that's our main need. We're also working with Dustin. We've talked, he's got an older pickup truck that's due for a replacement, and I'm hoping to, when he's done using that for DPW, I'm hoping to snatch it up so we can kind of keep it. I don't want to say a beater truck, but a beater truck for when the guys go out on the strand and throw the cabanas and chairs and stuff in there and bring them back. That we can hopefully squeeze a little bit more time out of a vehicle like that. But other than that, the main projects,
Yeah.
figuring out.
The replacement UTVs, are they covered by this year's budget? I can't remember. Do you?
Yeah, they're everything for UTVs and stuff is done, taken care of, and this budget is purchased. They're ready to roll in service and done.
All right. The only thing I'm thinking of is the beach season starts in May, and if we wait till the budget, going over planning a budget for the next year, if we're not going to need to do a budget amendment so that you will have this equipment for the start of the season.
Yeah,
And that's for us to decide, but that's just
Yeah.
a thought.
we don't have it the budget allocated. Some of the fire department budget, we're trying to build some capital reserve there. Looking forward, I don't think unless there's a budget amendment, we're not gonna make it happen with the current budget. I don't,
But you're set to start the next season.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna make it work one way or another.
I'd like to make just a couple of points. One, it's a very outstanding comprehensive briefing. You know, one of the first times we have had this. Just point out, you know, in my mind, whether we change the cabana rules, eliminate cabanas or anything else like that, you're still gonna have the same number of staff out there, same number of days, and same equipment they're gonna be using. So it's not gonna have an impact on the cost of operations. What it may do is impact, you know, what they're doing during the course of that day that goes into it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
and I think some front end education preparations that we'll make with videos or flyers or
Yeah.
some training things. But,
The one thing I would like to point out is, you know, this past year, we did have a good bit of equipment that was in the budget, that spiked the budget up again. As we go over time, you've talked about various pieces of equipment for the beach patrol as well as for the fire department. It would be good to sort of have you lay out sort of a life cycle maintenance and process for the heavy equipment. So we just kind of look down and see over the year, not just for beach patrol, but for the fire department itself, you know, the anticipated cost as we go down the road to the future.
Yep, capital improvement plan, I'm working on it. Everything from the UTVs are tricky because we've switched brands a few times, so we gotta figure out which ones last the longest and how long they last. But everything from UTVs to jet ski to boat to pickup trucks to ladder trucks to fire engines, I'm putting all that together on a capital improvement plan, and I'm sure we'll share that with you at the budget cycle and starting in February probably.
Good job.
We have been discussing a vehicle or equipment replacement schedule outside of just the capital improvement plan as well for each department to hopefully be presented at budget this year.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good job.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Is Joseph going to?
Hey, you want to meet Joseph?
Think about it.
Just tell him about your time in Sunset Beach.
All right,
Your vision.
my vision. Well, just give you a little background. I've been here since 2003 with the fire department. So I grew up here at Sunset Beach, working on the island. But so far I've been working on more than just beach patrol. Of course, with the community risk reduction, we've gone through 6 or 7 events, and one event that we haven't never done before is I got up with the Methodist Church who has a daycare, and we actually did a fire prevention thing with the kids, and they really enjoyed that and got some handouts. They got to climb on the fire truck, so that was something fun for a lot of people. Also, they're trying to bring back the File Life program, which we've had in the past. There's a few grants out that I'm going to go out for to get it, and with the File Life, with our community, they can fill this out, put a magnet on their refrigerator, and when we go on calls for medicals or whatever, we can pull that out. It's got their name, history, and it just helps us out, tremendously. So that's one thing we're looking for. We have been going out and doing, so far we've done 6, and I've already got 3 more scheduled for next year is the hands-only CPR. And so they're currently updating the PowerPoint for that, making it more personalized for Sunset Beach. And one of my other big projects I've been doing is the NIMS compliance and emergency management systems, and that helps us with the grants. And so we've had several members who haven't had any kind of NIMS training whatsoever, so I've got them started on that, and we're almost have all of our members got the mandatory NIMS classes. So,
Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Congratulations.
there anything else on that subject?
Anybody else got anything, or I can let them
No.
go? They've got training on the island that they're working on a house with, so.
Yeah, that's it.
Be safe.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Assistant Chief. Okay, next up will be the dredging amendment. You have it in front of you?
May I?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, John.
All right. I put this on the agenda and added it this morning in accordance with the rules that we have of when we can add items to the agenda. The council on October 7th instructed Moffett and Nichol to proceed with getting the variance request in the fastest way. Then at our last meeting on with a 5-0 vote, in the last meeting, the council reversed its decision by a 3-2 vote, and I want to revisit that vote. We got the CAMA permit, and as expected, it said the excavation shall not exceed -2 feet below mean low water. Since February 2018, we've been aware that this was going to happen, and the council recognized and agreed, at least as of October 7th, that we would request the variance. Going for the -5 feet mean low water increases the effectiveness and longevity of the dredging. If we dredge only to -2 feet, it's expected that we'll have to do maintenance dredging more frequently. The over time project costs will increase due to the repetitive mobilizations and dredging. And at -2 feet mean low water, the dredging could take longer and cost more because the barges would be limited to navigating at high tide. We really don't know the actual cost until the town puts out the bids. We can't put out the bids until we get finalized in terms of what we're going to be permitted to do, whether there's a variance, and what conditions are going to be needed. If we do not receive the variance, the initial cost could decrease, but then the maintenance cost of dredging would be, and maintenance dredging and cost would occur more frequently and probably cost more, plus our current state grant does not cover the maintenance dredging. It only covers 2/3 of the current dredging. And I would point out that the state grant is funded mainly by boat license and title fees and motor fuel excise fees. So whether the town applies for the variance or not, the timeline for starting dredging is about the same. It's going to be November 2020 at the earliest. And so we don't lose time by applying for the variance. And in the long term, if the variance is granted, dredging costs would likely be reduced. So a key thing here is the time to prepare the variance application. The deadline for submitting it is 31st of December 2019 in order to get it before the February 2020 CRC meeting. It has specific criteria that must be met and is a complex, time-consuming document to prepare that require contributions by the town staff, the legal advisor, and Moffett and Nichol. And with the holiday season coming, it's imperative to use all the time we have available. If we delay until December 2nd to discuss and approve this variance, we'll lose two weeks of work that's there. You know, and just point out, the 2 new council members that will be sworn in on December 2nd, you know, clearly showed in their campaigning that they were in favor of dredging and applying for a variance. And the large margins of victory over the nearest competitor who opposed dredging and the variance demonstrated, in my mind, strong citizen support for the new council members, and if nothing else, acceptance of their positions on dredging and the variance. Recognizing this, it was my view that we should reverse the decision now and give our staff ample time to get the variance prepared. As such, I'd like to make a motion to approve the preparation and submission of the variance request petition to the chairman of the Coastal Resources Commission.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Jen.
I would like to ask Councilman Corbett if he has facts to back up his opinions and statements.
Jan, is your mic on?
Yes?
Okay.
Yeah, I have listened to the experts, the Moffett and Nichols consultant, and the materials that they've prepared for the last 3 to 4 years, and that's where I'm basing my opinions.
Well, we have one consultant. We also have other expert opinions out there, too.
I understand that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say the last couple of days I've contacted the previous dredger, and the information I received from Mrs. Harris and other people, we have dredged deeper than 2 feet. Mary's and Jinks Creek was dredged at 6, 4, and 3. The bay and canals were deeper than 2 feet in multiple places. So I agree with Mr. Corbett. I agree, and I second that we go forward with this.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Rich.
I have a little bit of anxiety, so I hope I don't stutter. On October 7th, when we made the decision, we did not have the Department of Environmental and Quality report. And if I recall that meeting, the meeting was, the vote was hesitant, at least from myself and Ms. Harris. We then received the report. The report speaks for itself. Secondly, we have yet to hear from the Corps of Engineers. So this decision hasn't yet been reviewed by the Corps of Engineers. And on another matter, we promote that we are a transparent government. But this is a critical issue. We've been discussing it for 5 years. In my personal opinion, we wasted 5 years. And the state has been telling us over and over again, along with the Corps, they had issues. This dredging program could have been done 4 years ago, but there was such an effort to dredge such an effort to dredge Jinks Creek, which performs as a P&A function. We don't seem to want to listen. Such a critical item to be added on an agenda on a Tuesday morning when no one is here, and I don't mean no one, but there's only about 8 people here, is not transparency. It's government trickery. Excuse my bluntness. Also, at the beginning of the meeting, the mayor reads a statement, appearance of a conflict of interest. I know I'm not very popular, and frankly, I don't care. But my ethics training, appearance of a conflict of interest, the person who has put this forward,
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
it's not a point of order.
That's history. It does
It's not a
not
point
need
of
to be
order.
brought up again.
Let him finish, let him finish. Go ahead, Rich, finish out.
Thank you. Mr. Corbett pushed this through. He made this amendment. He had to sign a no conflict of interest certificate. Mr. Mayor, I can't fix this. And let me finish also. What will the hearing cost if we go to the CRC before the Corps of Engineers makes a decision? Who's paying the lawyer to attend this hearing? How much will that cost? No.
I don't know what the cost is
Yeah,
gonna be,
that-
but I will say that Mr. Corbett followed the rules that are in place. These are the rules.
Mr.
Whether
Mayor,
I agree with it or not, he has every right to bring this up. And he has every right to vote on it, just like you did 2 weeks ago when you brought it up and voted on it. And 2 weeks before that, when it was brought up and voted on. And he has every right to do it, and until the council decides to change the rules, He is fully within his right to do this.
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor,
Mayor?
I'm not talking about rights.
Well, that
I'm talking about process. I'm
is the
talking ab-
process. He has followed the process that is laid down right now.
This
Mr.
is
Mayor.
a critical decision that was made, and that Beacon, the ink is still wet on their page. This was made 2 weeks ago, I believe.
And
Mr.
2 weeks
Mayor,
before that.
Now,
Go
why
ahead.
wasn't this placed, if Mr. Corbett had,
Let Jan have him.
if
have him
Mr.
in.
Let me finish. If Mr. Corbett had a desire to put this on the agenda, then why didn't he fill out an agenda report? So that all the citizens could see what was on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor,
Hang on, Jan is next. Go ahead, Jan.
when I put the agenda item on the agenda for our first meeting in November, I was told that I had to put in an agenda item request in writing in enough time to get it on the agenda so that it could be published and made notice to the public that this would be an agenda item. Why is it different for me than it is for Mr. Corbett?
I can answer that.
Well, actually, I can answer that.
Go ahead.
I'm the one that told
Go ahead,
Councilman
Hunter.
Harris. She asked to place it on the agenda before Lisa got it out. That was her question, how to get on the agenda before it gets published. So we told her.
No, it wasn't.
But every meeting, you guys set your agenda at that meeting. And in the past, every member of this council has placed one item on the day of a meeting.
They filled out an agenda report.
No,
No.
y'all have also placed stuff on at the beginning of a meeting in the past.
Rich, you've done it
You
more
do
than
thi-
anybody.
you do
You come in
this
here
in-
with a piece of
I
paper, hand
filled
it
out
out.
more agenda reports than all of you
You
put together.
finalize your agendas at every meeting. However, our preferred method is yes. If you know before we publish the agenda, this is going to be on the agenda, submit it to us, we put it on the agenda.
Mr. Corbett had since November, whatever date.
I'm not arguing that. I'm
All right.
answering the question of why it was different, because what was asked of us is how do I get this on the agenda before it's published?
This is not transparency. And we all know it, and we're trying to rationalize a reason to defend it.
I'm just answering the question. I'd also like to answer the question of the costs, if I may, since that's actually relevant to the conversation at hand of this agenda item. The costs are incurred by the grant and the assessment. So whatever attorney fees go for a variance will be folded into the total project cost. So it's not costing anybody on the back end anything other than the people who will be directly affected under the assessment. That's where that cost will be placed at. Secondly, the Army Corps of Engineers' decision holds no bearing on the CRC since they're a federal agency. The CRC is a state agency. They're only looking at our state permit. They're not linear. They are separate, and they don't have any bearing on each other.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm a bit disturbed by Mr. Serrato being so upset. I seem to recall when this council was seated, shortly after, there was a hidden agenda to fire the then town administrator, Susan Parker. Everything was done in quiet. Somebody on this council shared information.
Nothing to
Yeah,
do with this issue.
This has nothing to do with this. So let's just move on.
All right,
Did
that's
check
fine.
on-
Now I've had something else, okay?
Go ahead, Charlie.
North Jenks Creek is not a PNA. It has never been a PNA. You can keep saying it, but it's not true.
It functions
Mr.
as a
Mayor,
PNA.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Jan.
North Jinks Creek splits a P&A. The only reason North Jinks Creek is not considered a P&A is because the state did not complete the study to determine that it was a P&A. And if a study were done today, it would probably prove that it is a P&A.
Probably, but it is not designated as a PNA. So, look, these are the rules that the council made. I'm just following the rules. He is able to put it on the agenda, and we're going to vote on it. So, does anybody else have anything to say?
Mr. Mayor, all I look at, if it's not done today, it's going to be done December 2nd. Let's get it go forward. There's people on this council that's told me for 4 years before dredging and then they write certain agencies to ask us to be taken off the grant. People on this council have told me that we've only dredged 2 feet, which is not true. We've dredged 5 feet, 6 feet, 4 feet, and 3 feet in Turtle and Mary's Creek. So I agree with John.
That's not Jinx Creek.
Okay.
Disgraceful.
All in
Mr. Mayor.
favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
No.
3-2, dredging amendment passes. Next up is the budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to add the stormwater and police department budget amendments.
It already is that.
Second.
Are you approving?
Approve it, rather. I'd like to make a motion to approve it. Charlie, second.
Charlie, second.
Yes, I did.
Discussion?
What are we talking about, Mr. Mayor, the budget amendment?
Yes, sir.
Hiram, just a procedural question.
Yes, sir.
The police department, it says department supplies. In other words, the chief needs $500 more department supplies?
Oh.
What this is
Or is this the gift or what?
someone donated $500.
Okay,
We have to account
okay.
for that.
All
So
right, that's how,
that
thank
line's
you.
increasing from 26.1 to 26.6.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Charlie.
the budget ordinance for the stormwater program,
This is,
we have never put enough money into stormwater for how many ever years it's been ignored. And I think we need to spend this money.
do you want me to?
Tara? Go ahead,
Okay.
Tara.
Please
So,
explain.
so for the police department, it is a donation. It's just recognizing it. We already have it. It's already in there. I'm just moving it from the revenue to the expense line. And the stormwater is actually a piece of equipment that I believe wasn't functioning properly up to the point where they needed it to. And so this is like an upgrade. So they're basically buying back the equipment, and this is the upgrade to make sure that equipment works. I don't know the details about it, but if you have questions about that, I can bring John up here.
Yeah, essentially, this is the vacuum for the multi-hog. It's this big, our sidewalk's this big, so we're getting a wider piece in order to vacuum up the pervious pavement. So they're buying back our piece, so we don't have to buy this equipment at the maximum rate. They're actually discounted from, I think, what, 30,000 down to 18?
Yeah, so it was the piece of equipment is actually $35,000. And so they're giving us that much back. And so we're only paying an $18,000 difference to get the equipment that we actually use. The equipment that we have now, I believe, what they were telling me is that we really can't use it. It's not functioning the way that we need it
Yeah,
to.
no, it works great. It just only works great for
Right.
Love it.
a third of the sidewalk down the center.
It also saves time, right, Dustin? Or going over the sidewalk 3 times, you only have to do it once.
Yeah, where Rich purchased what y'all a street sweeper, actually sweeps it to the thing with the cracks that are, the crevices that are in the pervious surface of the concrete. It sort of sweeps the sand into it. With the new CityVac, that's what it's called, it's basically a big vacuum cleaner that we put a head on it, and it's almost the width of the sidewalk. By doing that, it will actually suck the sand out of the cracks instead of just sweeping to the center and trying to do a small section in the middle. So it would do basically almost the whole width of the sidewalk with its head.
If it was solid pavement, the sweep to the
Yeah,
center would
this-
work perfectly.
Yeah, the street sweeper
But the
would work
sweeper is just
perfect.
pushing it back into crevices
Right.
instead of bringing it to the center.
And our requirement is we have to
We have to clean
get
the
the
whole-
sand out of
The
the
crevices.
pervious concrete
Yeah.
to keep it pervious.
And this will
Yeah.
stop them from having to blow it out with backpack blowers.
Yeah, we've had to blow it out, sweep it, or take brooms, shovels. We have to do it all to try to help the sweeper out. This year we'll be able to sweep it. And actually it does, we've already tried it out and it actually does a really good job. Better job than what the street sweeper does.
How often do we do the sidewalks over there?
Oh, what do you want to say? Once, twice a week, just depends on how the weather is also. And John, with relying on my guys also, we're trying to split it up too. And so I can help him out with it.
Could you also use that on the bike lanes?
Yeah, we can, and also in the park. It also
park.
works good in the park, bike lanes, and also on the bridge. It'll work good on the bridge also.
Yeah, that's good. So it's multi-purpose.
Oh, yes, it's multi-purpose.
So is there a motion there?
You made the
You've made a
motion.
motion and.
Charlie seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
5-0.
Thank you,
Thanks, Terry.
all for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, we're to the disposition of directives. Number 1 is the ERC initial report for 12/2. Peter Larkin, is that still good?
Yes.
Public hearing, Article 7, Section 7.09B, fences. Still good. And public hearing, Article 6, minimum house size, 12/2.
Yep, y'all set the public hearings, they've been advertised.
Great. Is there anything else?
I have a,
Mr. Mayor?
I have a couple quick ones.
Okay, go ahead.
One is, I'm the alternate GSAT representative. We need to put on the agenda appointing a primary GSAT representative. Mr. Serrato will no longer be the primary GSAT rep, so we need to discuss that. And I think we also have a Council of Government rep that we need to discuss. And I think that's traditionally the mayor.
Also, John, you need to put on the fire that I'm appointed to.
Well, actually, that's.
Hiram, I hope there's no
that's the
closed
city
session
mayor
before.
Regardless.
Hiram, I hope there's no close meeting scheduled before.
Not unless y'all have something. that
No,
you-
no, because the new council's going to take over immediately. And
Practically,
we
but-
put that in years ago to avoid any cleverness.
Right, the attorney doesn't have any communications at this time, so there's no necessary.
nothing, because the new council should be here.
Right, we don't have him slated till the second meeting in December.
All right, I got the GSAT rep on number 4, as number 4. The council governing rep as number 5. Is there anything else?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Charlie.
I want to take a look at the process of adding agenda items. Previously, we needed a second to add an agenda item. That was changed, and I think we need to go back to having a second for an agenda item, so all of this stuff is not put on the agenda. Needless stuff.
Do you want, what date?
What's the agenda look like for the second?
Filling up?
Can,
You have 6, but really nothing big.
I was gonna say the 17th would probably be the better conversation.
that would be fine with
Well,
me.
that would also give anyone coming onto the council a chance to review all the rules more fully before having to expect to make any possible changes to them the night they take office.
Okay.
I have
Is that
one
good?
more.
17th?
Yes.
Okay,
And I have one more.
okay.
Cabana vendors. We need to take a second look at this. I have no idea how many emails we all got about the cabanas. The vast majority were in favor of cabanas for health reasons or the inability to carry a cabana to the beach. I want to take a look at how we can control the vendors if we go back in that direction. I voted no cabana vendors because of the lack of respect for the laws and people's property of at least one and maybe more cabana vendors. If we can control the operation of the vendors where they aren't flagrantly breaking our laws, I would like to see them back in operation. And this is something that I just want to see discussed.
Okay,
Maybe-
that's gonna be number 7 on the, directives.
Do we want that on the 2nd or the 17th?
I thought it was the 2nd.
When,
Well-
when do you want that?
We can,
You want it
Well-
December, January?
Hiram, he just has to fill out an agenda report.
Well, we're just trying to put the dates on the directives.
You want that on the next meeting?
yeah, why don't we get started on that? If we need,
Okay,
if there's, we're going to need a report from the police chief and the fire chief, and
Yeah, there's not enough time for that then to do it at the next meeting
All
because
right,
holidays.
how about the first meeting in January?
Okay. So that'd be the 6th.
Yes, and then we all can think about it. All meaning you, Hiram.
I know.
okay, so what's the date on that, Cabanas?
1/6. 20.
Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
I'd like to put on, for a future meeting, maybe the December 17 meeting, discussion of content and a date to do a community meeting. Does that cause any problems for the staff? The idea on the 17th is to discuss it, what we want to put on it and when we want to do it.
You said in your earlier meetings that you wanted it discussed so that it could be held in January. So I've already put it on the December 2nd agenda for
Oh,
you
okay.
to select a date and time.
Okay, good.
Okay, that's on for 12/2. Anything else?
No.
That's all I have now.
Public comments? Does anyone have any public comments? Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.